Hey, you guys, it's 5.6, writing a guided literary analysis on Oedipus Rex. Our lesson objective, students will be able to interpret an extract from Oedipus Rex. Let's take some notes. Your essential question is, how do I write a guided literary analysis on a strophic pair from Oedipus Rex? Our first question, how do I turn my color marking into an essay? So far, you've done some color marking. I hope that you have found at least 3 different interesting patterns of language from each text, and you have made a literal and an interpretive claim about each. So now we have to move towards getting this ready to become an essay. Our first tip here is to remind yourself of the purpose of the essay, and this is right from the IB organization language, their guide. And so according to IB, the purpose of this exam, paper 1, the guided literary analysis essay, is to explore a passage with the support of a guiding question, which asks students to consider a technical or formal aspect of the passage by doing the following. And these correspond to the 4 criteria on which you're graded. A, demonstrate a thorough and perceptive understanding of the literal meaning of the text, and a convincing and insightful interpretation of larger implications and subtleties of the text, using well-chosen references. Demonstrate an insightful and convincing analysis of textual features and or authorial choices. There is a very good evaluation of how such features and or choices shape meaning. The next thing they're looking for is that you present your ideas in an effective, organized, and coherent way with an analysis that is well-focused. And the last thing they're looking for is your use of language, that it's clear, effective, precise, no errors, and it's in an academic register. So knowing all of these things, we have to take the color marking and turn it into an essay. All right, well, the first thing is the guiding question. The guiding question is supposed to help us make sense of the text. And so let's take a look at how the guiding question can influence your essay or can help you actually organize your essay. Look at your color marking right now. Where do you see aspects of the guiding question in your color marking? You can probably use what you found either in 5.5 or in one of the previous lessons, even before you knew what the guiding question was, because it probably relates somehow. You just kind of have to figure out how. So try color marking again. Now that you have the guiding question in mind, I have extra copies of this text, so you can color mark as many times as you want, as many copies as you want, and you can also find it in Schoology. Ask yourself, how does the pattern of language that I found already in the color marking connect to the effect listed in the guiding question? So each guiding question has some kind of technical aspect or authorial choice, whatever you want to call it, like imagery, and I'm forgetting what the second one is right this second, but the references, I think, right? References, and those are kind of broad umbrella terms, but those are going to help you to connect what you've color marked to the guiding question, okay? The other thing every guiding question has is an effect, and that's a connection to some kind of theme or meaning. So stay focused on the guiding question and find 3 key points. Maybe they aren't 3 separate patterns of language. So that's maybe a new idea for you that you can make that answer the question and that use authorial choices, patterns of language, technical aspects, that there's a lot of synonyms for this term, authorial choices. Okay, let's take a look at some examples. First, I'm sorry, before we get to the examples, write down the next question. How do I write a central assertion? So you'll have to do this in your essay and then also in Mastery Check 5.6. All right, so after you find your 3 key points you want to make that answer the guiding question, you write your central assertion. Your central assertion is the answer to the guiding question, but it's a little bit more general. then your 3 key points. It should have something profound about it, something interesting, something that you came up with on your own that would make someone else think, hey, isn't that an interesting aspect about human nature or about life? Make sure you include that authorial choice or technical formal aspect, whatever we're calling it, from the guiding question in this central assertion. And include that effect or the theme meaning from the guiding question in the central assertion. And then make a debatable interpretive point about both the authorial choice and the theme or meaning or effect that is valid and profound. Easier said than done, right? That's the hard part, is figuring out, okay, well, what is it really going to say? I know I need to take part of the guiding question. I know I need to talk about authorial choices. I know I need to say something profound, but what is it that is profound about this text? That's the question. Well, let's go at it by looking at some examples. The first example comes from the poem Late Love. So these are IB examples, so we know for sure that they're good examples because the Smarty Pantses over at the IB organization, the IB program spelled with 2 M's and an E, said that these were good. So we're going to use theirs first, and then I'll show you a version of my own. My nose itches. That means someone's thinking about me. Is it you? Just kidding. Okay, so guiding question, how is imagery used in this poem to evoke the impact of love on a person's life? This is back to that Late Love poem that we've already looked at. And this sample is in Schoology, so you can look at the entire essay. Here's the student's central assertion. Imagery is used to show the redeeming qualities of love, reveal the physical differences brought about through love, and finally, the transient nature of love. So if you look at this one, they're actually they're just talking about really one pattern of language here in the central assertion, and then they're talking about 3 ways or 3 different impacts of love that are shown. All right, first redeeming qualities, then physical differences, and then transient or changing nature. So instead of saying 3 different patterns, this is 3 ways it affects meaning. You can take that route if you want to in writing your guided literary analysis. Here's another good example. This one comes from a second essay, also found in Schoology, and it's on a prose extract called Let the Great World Spin. The guiding question, what tensions are created in the descriptions in these paragraphs? And here's the student's central assertion. Through the initial description of the birds, the author reveals the man's own aspirations. The tension between his own mind and body is also created through the descriptions of his rigorous training and testing of his bodily limits. Finally, the tension between the man and the natural world is revealed through the storm. So again, they've kind of organized it into 3 key pieces, and all of them have to do with tension and description. And they made it really specific, right? Description of birds. And then we have aspirations are connected to that. Tension between mind and body is created through the description of the training. And then the tension between the man and the natural world through the description of the storm. So 3 key points are made. All right, here's one now from Oedipus Rex, something that I came up with. Another good example of central assertion, this one's from Kope. Parados, Ode 1, I believe, from the Parados is what this one is. Strophic pair 1 from the Parados, I should say. Okay. So many labels. So many labels in my puny little brain. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. The guiding question is, how does the chorus create a response to fear using sentence structure in these lines? So a response to fear is kind of the effect or meaning or theme, and the sentence structure is the authorial choice or aspect of technical form. And here's the central assertion I came up with. By questioning and then making pleas directly to the gods, the chorus suggests that humans look to the divine when afraid of the unknown. And I think I've only got 2 points in there, and so later I added a 3rd, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. All right, here's point 1. If you're looking at 5.6, the outline, you'll notice that you have a spot to write 3 different points. These are your 3 key points that are supporting your central assertion, answering the guiding question. So from the late love essay that was graded by IBO, they say imagery is used to show, this is the central assertion, I'm sorry. The redeeming qualities of love reveal the physical differences brought about through love, and finally, transient nature of love, remember? So here's their point 1. The redeeming qualities of love are revealed through imagery in this poem. All right, and you see that right here. And so now they've just stated it in a complete sentence. It's a simple sentence. So don't try to make your sentences really complex in this essay. Try to make your sentences concise. Feel free to show off your use of language, but without being wordy. Keep the sentences short when you can and get right to the point. All right. Another good example of a point 1, this one comes from the Let the Great World Spin extract, and there's the guiding question, there's their central assertion. Here's their first point. The initial description of the mother hawk and her chicks reveals the tension between the man's aspirations and his current state. And so you see that right here, through the initial description of the birds, the author reveals the man's own aspirations. Here we have the description of Mother Hawk and her chicks reveals the tension between the man's aspirations. So they've just stated it a little bit differently. They've gotten a little more specific, right? Okay, here's mine. And you can see how I changed my thesis statement, my central assertion. I added 3 things now instead of 2. By questioning, using interjections, and making pleas directly to the gods, the chorus suggests that humans look to the divine when afraid of the unknown. Okay, so I actually have 3 patterns of language that are working towards the same idea instead of 3 different ideas being conveyed with one pattern. But you can do either or, okay? I like going this route because I think it might allow for a higher score on the rubric. But at the same time, IBO put out those other examples that really look at 3 key ideas from one. No, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to be quiet. I think either way works fine. Here is my sample of point 1. In the strophe, the chorus asks questions about the gods, and then directly to the gods about what the future holds for them due to the plague, suggesting humans look to the divine when afraid of the unknown. All right. Moving on to point 2, I just gave you the same example here. I didn't go back to the other essays, but you can find them in those essays on Schoology if you like. So back to the Parados, strophic pair 1 from the Parados. Here's my point 2. The interjection O is used 3 times in the strophic pair in exclamations to the gods, showing the chorus's strong feelings of entreaty to the divine as they face the fear of the unknown. Then my third point is the chorus moves from questioning to making direct pleas to the gods, first in the strophe and then in the antistrophe, creating the feeling that the humans don't have the answers to the unknown and so must look to the divine. All right, so each point is answering the guiding question. It includes an authorial choice and some kind of effect or meaning, and it's somewhat interesting. What comes next? Well, write your central assertion for each text, and it's going to help to have your key points first. Maybe they're going to be the patterns that you listed already for color marking. Maybe you have to change them at this point. It's going to be up to you. Outline your guided literary analysis to make sure you stay focused and within the time limit for the in-class essay. You can use it as you write your essay. And you can also use your packet, anything in it. You can use the copy of the play. You just can't use any electronic devices. The last mastery check is 5.6, and it will ask you to write a central assertion for one of the 2 texts. So good luck as you work on this, and feel free to show me any examples and chat with me about ideas. Yeah.